The only way you can take CBS Sports Radio 1140 with you is with the Radio.com app. Download it today and listen to us anytime, anywhere. You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. The nation and the league arrive in Las Vegas in 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black Today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Week 3 of the NFL season is upon us. Can the Raiders start off a marathon road trip with a win against the Vikings? Can the offense put together a big game against a very good Minnesota defense? And will the Raiders defense bounce back from their loss to the Chiefs and take that next step forward in this rebuild heading towards Las Vegas? Welcome back to Las Vegas's only All Raiders talk show, Silver and Black Today, coming to you live from the Finlay Chevrolet studios at CBS Sports Radio 1140 here in Las Vegas, Nevada, where we're not storming Area 51, but we are storming your eardrums with the best Raiders talk, news, guests, and information. Also streaming live on YouTube, Periscope, and Facebook video. You can come in the studio with us. That's right. You can come inside the inner sanctum and see what's happening here at CBS Sports Radio 1140. But thanks for joining us. Without you guys, we don't have a show, and you know, our listeners are fantastic. It's always great to interact with you, which you see if you go to the YouTube channel, on Twitter, on Facebook. You will see a lot of folks there having fun, and that's what we want to do. So thanks for being with us here on the show. And the official Raiders watch party today. You know, we are officially the pregame show today because the Raiders have an early kickoff. And so there is an official team watch party at the Henderson Pavilion. Admission is free. Gates open at 9 a.m. with a kickoff at 10, of course. Exclusive Raiders T-shirts. Free T-shirts.
Free swag.
Will be given away to the first 1,500 guests to enter. Fans planning on attending the Raiders official watch party can enter an advanced drawing to win a football autograph by Raiders head coach John Gruden. Knock if you're with me. By signing up at raiders.com/watch party. So I guess you don't even have to go to the watch party to be there or to just to. Wait, let me rewind on that. So anyway, we are here. Quick rundown of today's shows. Bottom of the hour, Rick Velotta, the veteran business reporter and assistant business editor from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, will join us, and he will tell us why the Raiders increased the budget for Allegiant Stadium this week and how 2 new big corporate partners came on board as well as the stadium construction rolls on. Then we'll talk Bleacher Report writer and Silver and Black Today senior NFL columnist Moe Moton. He gives us an unbiased, always level-headed view on the current state of the Raiders, and his column that you can find on silverandblacktoday.com that ran yesterday on why this is a big, big game and test for the Raiders' defense, improved defense, you could say. After Mo, we switch gears. Today's big game at U.S. Bank Stadium as the Raiders head to Minneapolis. Manny Hill from SkorNorth Radio 1500 in Minneapolis will tell us about the Vikings and whether or not Kirk Cousins is long for the starting role for the Purple in Vikings town. Later on the show, our own Lindsey Brown, the goalie, who is a massive Vikings fan. So we would like people to call in and give her crap about that. She'll be in as well to talk about the Vikings and the atmosphere up in Minneapolis. We'll finish out with the popular or hated, depending where you stand, depending on your side, Kelly's Corner.
Yes.
And our NFL picks. And we didn't do bad last week. Also, we'll give you who we think wins today's game as well. And joining me on the show each week, as long as they are up and breathing and not otherwise disposed, Chaz Osborne.
Yeah.
Welcome, man. How are you?
Great. Morning, Raider Nation.
Yeah. I mean, what did you? Chaz and I were talking in the pre-show about Antonio Brown, and it just continues, man. I know some Raiders, he's gone, don't talk about him. It's a big story in the NFL. Another meltdown this morning.
He owns the pregame show, I'll tell you what. Antonio Brown just won't go away. You know, I'm starting to feel bad, honestly. He's put himself in this position. We were talking about it. It's like the Mike Tyson situation. He just, but you know, he was at the highest of high, and then he's just knocking himself down and just, it's unbelievable. Now you're starting to think about mental issues. You saw a little bit of it on the Hard Knocks, and you thought, well, there's a little bit of crazy there. Can we blame?
Well, tell that story about the eyes you told me.
Yeah, when his first press conference, when he was taking the pictures, his eyes were popping out of his head, and then there was a couple of interviews on Hard Knocks where he just started going on a rant, and you thought, okay, there's a little crazy there, and I was thinking, well, maybe we can blame Vontez Burfict for knocking a little crazy into him, but this was just a long time coming, and now his real personality is starting to bubble to the front, and it's not a pretty thing. So
well, and our third host here on the Silver and Black today will have something to say about this, and I have a feeling it might be quippy and funny. Kelly Kreiner, welcome, man. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. No, I don't have anything else to say about it. I'm done.
Done?
Yeah.
It sort of played itself out, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what we thought, and then we said you had what's going on today. But yeah, at this point, it's like I'm just done with it.
But is he done? Is anybody else going to give him a chance?
I don't care. At this point, no, seriously.
That's what I love about Kelly. He just brushes stuff off. I was like, yeah, whatever.
Well, no, at this point, I mean, somebody's obviously going to take a chance on him because he's a good football player. But guess what? It's going to end poorly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Newsflash. Spoiler alert.
And what we talked about is going to be, there's going to be some suspensions. There's going to be some, nobody will sign him this year until after all the investigations. And then next year, if he's suspended for 4 or 6 games, so you're going to miss a half a year. So now he's missing a year and a half of football. On top of that, that's
and we'll limit our discussion because we got so much to get to in the show today. But I will tell you, I absolutely think mental health is a big issue. This country needs to be taken more serious. So I agree with you on that, Chaz.
Yep.
But I don't feel sorry for him. It's all self-destruction. It's not just mental illness. I think it's a self-centeredness that is unparalleled in some ways. But anyway, that's
turned into self-destruction now.
It has. One of the things too that we like to always talk about here when it comes to the Raiders is, of course, their community involvement already in Las Vegas. They've done so much. And this past week, the Raiders were out at an elementary school with the Raiders touting the NFL's Play 60 initiative, really to get kids up and of course, obesity and all these other things with kids and healthy living has been an issue. And so our own David Stepanian, our correspondent, was out there to cover that, and he filed this story. So let's hit that. That's eventually. There we go. We'll get to it. We've had issues with one of our computers today, and that one happens to control audio. So we'll get to it eventually. We got it. There we go. Here we go.
For the second year in a row, the Raiders and After School All-Stars partnered with the Las Vegas Valley Elementary School for their annual Play 60 event, which encourages kids to join athletic after-school programs to keep them healthy and stay safe. This year's lucky school was West Prep Academy, and students were treated to real football drills and exercises, along with a mandatory Raiders chant. After School All-Stars director Jody Manzella is thrilled to have the team be a part of the community.
So, After School All-Stars, we are very proud to partner with the Raiders, and we were selected to participate with their Play 60 event. And as a recipient of the event, we also are receiving a $25,000 grant to be able to further our physical education sports classes within our after-school programming. And it's remarkable that the team isn't even here yet, but the Raiders have had a presence here for the past 2 years. And we've been fortunate at After School All-Stars to be the recipient of their generosity for the past couple years. And so it just means the world to the community that they are here already before the team. They're infiltrating, they're supporting so many different causes within inside of the community. And After School All-Stars is just proud to be one of those causes they support.
The team also provided a grant to After School All-Stars to help grow their outreach in Las Vegas and get more students involved in after-school activities. With Raider alumni in attendance to help teach the kids the drills, it gives students growing up in the Valley an opportunity to be a part of something that was never thought to be possible in Las Vegas. At least that's what former LA Raider Roy Hart says.
Over the last 2+ decades that I've called the Valley home, never in a million years that I would have even had in my mind that the Raiders would end up being my hometown team eventually, the Las Vegas Raiders. It's tremendous. This event today, the After School All-Star event, is huge. Of course, we need to keep the kids active. We need to give them other avenues and other things to get out and be a part of. And the All-Star 360, the NFL 360, where we get the kids to come out and at least stay active for an hour a day, is big. These kids, having the Raiders here, especially the young men and women that inspire to play football, but a lot of incredible young athletes in the Las Vegas Valley now can see that dream of playing for their hometown team eventually, which is the Las Vegas Raiders.
After School All-Stars is a nonprofit organization that encourages students to get involved in extracurriculars. To learn more about them, head to asaslv.com. For Silver and Black Today, I'm David Stepanian.
All right. Again, the Raiders doing great things in the community, and joining us, the man who filed the report, David Stepanian. David, so this is you've been out and you cover a lot of these events for us. Tell us what it's like for those kids when you're out there and they see the Raiders there with all their gear and the alumni really helping these kids out.
Man, it's awesome. You just see it in their eyes, like it's they know it's a big deal and they know it's awesome. And man, how incredible is this that we've already come to a point. It's the second annual Play 60 event here in Vegas from the Raiders. So the Raiders have been here for a long time already, and they're giving all these kids across the valley something to just come to school and be happy about. And it's a great thing. It's a great opportunity for these kids that not many across the country get to have.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, watching them and what they're doing with that program, and obviously this E60 or not E60,
Play 60,
E60 is ESPN, but that program really exemplifies what it is that the NFL and what you get when you get an NFL team coming to town is they are so ultra involved in the school and all that stuff. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really great, especially because it's a good cause. I mean, we want kids to be more active. We want them to eat healthy, and the Raiders are paving the way for that. Having these grants and allowing these kids to do this, and they get to see Raider alumni, and the mascot comes out, cheerleaders come out, and it's really great. It's an event. Every time it's an event, it's something they're going to remember their whole lives.
All right, David Stepanian with a report on the Raiders in the community. Thanks, man, and we'll see you next time. Appreciate you coming in.
Yep, thanks, guys.
All right, we're going to step aside, pay some bills. When we come back, we're going to spend one more time reviewing the Chiefs game. What did we see? What did you see? What did everyone else see? And what does it mean for the Raiders heading forward? We'll talk a little bit about that before looking forward at the Vikings. You're listening to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Walk.
This is Cliff Branch, former of the Oakland Raiders, 3-time Super Bowl champ, 4-time Pro Bowl, and you listen to the Silver and Black Show.
All right, welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio. Your official pregame show today, right? Because the Raiders kicking off at 10 a.m. Pacific time, Las Vegas time, as we like to call it, the future home of your Raiders. I know, I have no idea what that means.
I like it.
But we're back, and we appreciate you being with us. Want to spend just a little bit of time, since we are a Sunday show, want to spend a little bit of time talking about last week's game, because we did have a loss. The Raiders lost, of course, to the Chiefs. That big second quarter, they get off to a big start. They end up losing 28-10. We all thought this game would be higher scoring, fellas. The Raiders came out looking tough in that first quarter. Then, adding to the Patrick Mahomes mystique, they give up that massive second quarter they could never recover from. So, guys, let's ask the question now. Looking at it, this game's already been dissected a lot by us on the website, silverandblacktoday.com, but also by others. For you, though, what concerns out of that game? I mean, look, Mahomes went on a tear in the second quarter. The Raiders looked flat-footed. It didn't look like they could do anything right, and the game was over.
Yeah.
But what concerns for you guys are more severe when you look at it?
Well, for me, it's the offense. That's what I'm worried about more. You only scored 10 points on the Chiefs. Take out the second quarter, man. The defense looked amazing. They did. They could not run the ball. They could not get hardly anything going. It's just there was that meltdown, and it just shows how scary that offense can be. Is they did that so quick.
Yeah,
it's you go from 10-0 to 28-10 in the blink of an eye, and it's like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Well, as much as it was a team win on that opening Monday night game, this is a team loss. There was just a lot of miscommunications on both sides of the ball, turnovers, penalties, missed opportunities. But, you're talking about things we didn't like. We could talk about the encouraging thing. It was the first time in 22 games that the Chiefs had been held scoreless in the first quarter.
Well, I know, but we're asking you your concern.
Nah, I got no concerns. It's a rebuilding year, and that just proves it's a perfect example of why it's still a rebuilding year. These miscommunications. You saw the Derek Carr doing the signal to Tyrell Williams. He didn't see it. There's a miscommunication there, and that's a learning experience. That first touchdown, Patrick Mahomes threw the running back lined up wide, and he came in motion, and LaMarcus Joyner kind of sort of half-heartedly signaled that he was going to pick it up. And Worley just wasn't looking, and he didn't see it. And so there's two guys running the post, so one guy's open. Unfortunately for Garyon Conley, on TV it looked like he was just head on a swivel. that one wasn't his fault. And then, the second one, it was 3rd and 20. That shouldn't happen, but that was a great pass by Mahomes. And the third touchdown, the same thing, 2nd and 17. But that was another great pass to Kelsey. And then the fourth touchdown, Jamarcus Robinson just made a great play on the ball. And, of course, it was Garyon Conley that was covering him, so it made it look like Conley really – and, maybe Conley was showing a little bit of effect from the opening game injury. But, those guys came out and played hard, so it's encouraging. Like I said, I've been talking about it the whole time. It's still a rebuilding year. It's a learning process. These guys all got to get on the same page. And, Mahomes, this is the third best team in the league. Some people want to argue even better than that. But this guy, his second quarter was better than 21 other quarterbacks complete games last week. That's what you're dealing with this guy. So, you got to just give it up for them. They're a better team right now, and we're still kind of in rebuilding mode. I felt like I was watching the Knights-Sharks Game 7 last year. It was like an avalanche, and you just couldn't stop it.
Couldn't stop it, right. Well, that was all the refs' fault, though, apparently. But here's the thing. For me, and for folks who listen to this show a lot, and thank you, people criticize me for defending Derek Carr a lot. But I got concerned with Derek Carr after this game because after that great opening performance, after that great drive in the first quarter of this game against the Chiefs, he didn't look the same. Only one pass past 7 yards in the second half. Now, against the Chiefs defense, Kelly, as you said, which is not good. I don't know if you'd use your trademark term and call them trash, but they're not. They're better than they were last year. Spagnuolo's done, I think, a good job of improving them. But 10 points, and how do you only pass the ball under 7 yards when you're down by 18 points? Now, again, some of it not his fault. I'm not saying that it's all his fault, but he looked different. Now, you get behind big in a game, it changes the course of it. Most of the time in the NFL, guys, that's when you start passing more. You start going downfield, challenging. Darren Waller was doing well. Ryan Grant looked like trash. I mean, he just did. He did. He didn't look good. Route running, trying to catch the ball, nothing. But you have weapons there, and okay, Josh Jacobs got injured. Doesn't matter. You're passing the ball. I mean, yeah, it matters. But still, that was my concern was Derek Carr looked so good in week 1, his footwork, you name it, and in week 2, it just changed. And that's concerning because you have to have consistency. I want the guy to succeed. But you sit there and say, okay, wow, what happened between week 1 and week 2, Kelly?
Well, first off, you sound like you should be surprised when you find out that Grant is not good at football.
No, you've said that all along. I'm not saying that.
Yeah. No. I didn't realize the 7-yard thing. That kind of surprised me, especially like you said, you're down, you need to score. And even though the defense was holding them, you can't expect to hold them a whole half without scoring, let alone a quarter. And it's not like they're getting a ton of pressure. Chris Jones had an amazing game up the middle. I mean, he was everywhere. But, D Ford, the big signing this year, has had one pressure this year. So, I mean, it's still a defense that's not it's not like he was under duress the whole time. So to hear that they hadn't, nothing over 7 yards is just kind of mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. Well, I still want to look at the positives. It's a resilient bunch. All the players that left the field with injuries, they all came back into play. And, they could have packed it in after halftime. They came out and competed in the second half. Again, held them scoreless. We were scoreless, so it was just kind of a fundamental second half. But, there's 9 teams in the league that would like to be where we're at right now. So, there's a lot of positive to build on.
You mean in the studio here with us?
Yeah, that's right.
I thought he meant Vegas. It's
Vegas.
Probably about more than that.
Okay. But yeah, no. So that was the thing for me, which was concerning Derek Carr. I'm not a guy who's given up and said he's not going to work. I'm just saying it was concerning to see him go backward.
Yep.
based on week one's performance, including, and he still had good protection. You're right. The Chiefs pressured him more. He didn't have any pressure against Denver. But at the same time, he had room, he had opportunities to move out of the pocket. He didn't do it like he did in week one. So I think week 3 will be telling, and we'll have to watch that. The other thing that concerned me was the defensive backfield. Now, they didn't look great, but Mahomes is Mahomes. You mentioned it earlier, Chaz. Some of them, he threw the ball on a dime. You can't. Conley had great coverage on the one touchdown.
Right.
Not on a lot of other plays, too, but he did it on that one touchdown. But he pinpointed it, dropped it right in, so you got to give the guy credit. But still, this unit, I sense they're still trying to find who they are and kind of how they gel together. It might be a little bit of a chemistry issue. Who knows?
Yeah.
And Joyner's now hurt, got a hamstring issue. So they're not deep there with Abram out already. So what do you think, Chaz? What do you think this group, I mean, they're going to face a good Minnesota offense today that has a sub-average quarterback in mind.
Yeah, not only Minnesota, just and beyond. Looking up this mountain, we're at the bottom right now. The 6-game, road trip basically. It's an uphill battle, and I've said it all along, preseason, everything. That's just it's one of those learning, rebuilding kind of years. So as long as we see, progress, as long as we see guys getting on the same page, everybody working together, for that ultimate goal. That's really all I want to see. Obviously, I want to be competitive. I want to beat a lot of these teams along the way. But as long as we see some progress, I'll be happy with that.
Well, and that's the thing, though, right? It's progress, and that's why the Carr thing and also the defensive backfield concerned me as well. We saw a more uneven game on the offensive line, but that was mostly, Kelly, because, like you said, the Chiefs were performing well up the middle. They just were.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite of what you would expect against Denver. Denver, you're expecting all your rush on the outside. This game, you're expecting it on the inside. The only difference was this time it was getting there.
Yeah.
The thing I see with the Chiefs, to use a basketball reference, they remind me of the Golden State Warriors, where all of a sudden they put like a 15-point barrage on you in 2 minutes, and then your head's spinning, and the other team's just like, which way is up? That's kind of what seemed like what happened in the second quarter, and even as the time was winding down there in the second quarter, we got the ball back with about a minute 50 or whatever. I thought to myself, man, just run the clock. We're down 21-10. We kind of withstood the blows. Let's get into halftime and regroup. And sure enough, they give them the ball back. One play, bomb. Now we're down 28-10. Like, come on, Raiders.
How about you play some defense?
Defense.
4 touchdowns in a quarter.
Defense always helps. Okay, well, we ran through. I think we can close the book on the Chiefs' loss. But it raised questions. We're going to see how those questions are answered today in Minneapolis, and we're going to talk to, just a reminder, at the top of the hour, with Manny Hill from SkorNorth Radio 1500 in Minneapolis. They cover the Vikings clearly, and we're going to talk to him about that. Also, coming up next, we're going to switch gears, talk about Allegiant Stadium. That's right. How's the stadium progress going? A lot of news this week with the stadium, and we're going to be joined by the Review Journal, Las Vegas Review Journal, assistant sports editor, longtime reporter, business reporter, and that is Mr. Rick Velotta. Rick will be with us. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
The only way to take Silver and Black today with you is with a radio.com app. Download it today and search CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio. Stadium update time. I know a lot of fans, a lot of our listeners outside of Las Vegas, inside of Las Vegas, all over the world like to keep track of what's happening with the Raiders' new home in Las Vegas, and that, of course, is Allegiant Stadium. The budget for Allegiant Stadium is expected to climb to $2 billion, and it has nothing to do with cost overruns. So those folks out there, the tinfoil hat folks who probably are up in Rachel this weekend with the Raid Area 51 stuff, that's not why. An increase in the budget was announced at this week's Las Vegas Stadium Authority Board meeting, and to tell us about it and give us clarity, as always, as he does so well, is Rick Velotta, assistant business editor at the Las Vegas Review Journal. Rick, tell us why this increase in the budget was necessary, and what are they going to use the money for?
Well, you're right. Everybody was in freak-out mode, I think, initially when word came down that the budget was going to increase to $2 billion. But it has absolutely nothing to do with any kind of cost overruns. It's the Raiders having so much success selling PSLs, the personal seat licenses, and season tickets going forward. And the fact that a lot of these sponsorship deals are finally starting to come to fruition. Because of that success, they had more money to deal with than they anticipated. So therefore, they're going in to spruce up things that they were okay. They were going to be pretty good because this is a brand new building, but they were going to put some new things in that were kind of beyond that. And we're talking about some additional stadium furniture, furnishings, fixtures and equipment, technology, and then there's some cost to that because there's some additional design and engineering that goes behind that. Just for an example, some of these club seats and some of these higher-end seats are going to have screens, some video screens right at their seat that they can not only watch replays and watch part of the game, but they can also order their food from them. So it's one of those types of things where the technology is going to really take command of the stadium, and it's going to be quite a thing for people who actually attend these games at these places.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I mean, I think that's where people it's akin to buying a house and then ordering what you want in your house and then going inside and saying, you know what, I do want to put those nicer floors in. I do want to put that better tile in the kitchen. And that's what the Raiders have done. And one of the things that you hear too, Rick, was at the meeting, of course, as they do every time, they go over the hotel revenue as well generated from the hotel tax, which was part of the funding from the state of Nevada and from Clark County, actually. And that one is a little bit of a mixed bag at times, and people seem to go up and down based on that number. But overall, where are we with the hotel tax and where that's at as far as the funding, the public, quote-unquote, public portion of the funding of the stadium?
It's in excellent shape, actually. One of the things that they did was to budget kind of conservatively, and at this point in time, they're on the numbers pretty well. But something that's been trending for the last 6 or 7 months, and we're probably going to see some additional revenues jump in this case. One of the amount of the tax is consistent. It's going to always be 0.88 percentage points higher than the actual hotel room tax is, and just that portion goes specifically to protect the $750 million in stadium bonds that the county has actually arranged. So what's changed and what's happening here is that the room rates are going up little by little. They're kind of inching up. Well, what does that mean? That means that they collect more tax revenue because the percentage stays the same. So because the rates are a little bit higher, you're going to see a slight increase there. In addition, in the next 12 months, we're going to see a lot of new rooms come online. So we're talking about additional rooms, so more space to fill. And then on top of that, you're looking at some very high occupancy rates. Las Vegas traditionally has high occupancy rates, towards 90%. Well, these are now inching up towards 95%. As those percentages climb, that means that more rooms are filled. That means if there's more rooms and those rooms are filled, that means more revenue in terms of the taxes. So it's kind of a little convoluted, but the fact is that it's inching upwards, and it's doing exactly what they said it was going to when they passed Senate Bill 1 3 years ago.
Again, we're speaking with Rick Velotta, assistant business editor at the Las Vegas Review-Journal, the guy who's covering the stadium and has done from soup to nuts, basically, since this thing was proposed. And Rick, one of the other things this week, some more news. You were kept busy by this project. This week, 2 big deals for the Raiders and the stadium. We had reported back in June that Levi Restaurants was the favorite to win that in the concessions contract for the new stadium, for Allegiant Stadium. That company did. They do the food both at T-Mobile Arena and Las Vegas Ballpark. That was officially announced, as well as Reyes Bottling here in Las Vegas, the local Coca-Cola bottler, and in what we call in the service industry going to be the official pour at Allegiant Stadium. Talk about both those deals, starting with the Levy deal, and what this means for the Raiders to kind of get this done now.
Well, the fact that they have it around a year ahead of time that they really need to have it in place, that's very solid. And obviously they've been negotiating with numerous potential vendors for quite some time. I think that it was just a matter of whether it was going to be Coke or Pepsi that came down as far as the soft drink beverage concession. And I don't know, it surprised me a little bit because it seems like there's a lot more Pepsi on the Strip than there is the Coke. But the fact is that they've got the local bottling company that has won the day, and they are going to be the provider. As far as Levy is concerned, you're right. This was kind of expected for quite some time. Very big producer of stadium-type environments all across the country. It's not just T-Mobile in the Las Vegas ballpark, but they're everywhere. They're in a lot of different locations around the country. Very successful at Staples Center. Very successful at the Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. So this is one of the, and they were also one of the vendors that attempted to get the food service contract at the Las Vegas Convention Center when that contract was open, and they had a very formidable bid, but this just got inched out in that one. But I think that's a very solid hire as well in terms of what we can expect in terms of food service. We're going beyond just hot dogs and hamburgers here. We're talking about some pretty exotic foods.
Oh, yeah.
Some relationships with some of the top chefs in the country. So it's bound to be quality, and that's, I think, what the Raiders had in mind when they built or went in to build the stadium. Anyways, they wanted high quality in just about every aspect.
Yes, and Rick, before we let you go, too, folks are always interested in construction. Of course, the question is it on time? Is it on time? The answer is yes. That cable roof system, which we've heard for so long was going to be the most difficult piece of this project, how is that moving along?
It's probably going to start to elevate this week, and that itself is quite an accomplishment to get it prepared that way, because there's a lot of moving parts. We're talking about lifting 100 cables simultaneously, just a little bit at a time. And what you're going to see is this cable net going up gradually, like maybe 7 feet at a time over the course of about 6 weeks. And once it gets to a level of about 100 feet, they'll probably do some work underneath it, because they have the ability, once that cable net is off the ground, to be able to do some of the floor portion. So you're going to be seeing some more cement poured down low. You're going to see some more seats put in the lower sections of the stadium bowl, and some of the transport system to bring the field rolled into the stadium floor level. So a lot of that's going to be going on in the next few weeks as well, as this cable net is lifted into place and then attached at the very top where the ceiling is. Yeah,
Rick, that's going to be fantastic. Again, Rick Velotta joined us here on the Attorney Michael Troiano Newsmaker Ryan. Rick, thanks so much. We'll have you on again real soon. Appreciate your time on this Sunday.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, Rick Velotta, Assistant Business Editor with the Las Vegas Review-Journal, with an in-depth stadium update. A lot of news this week. The project rolls on. It is really looking, and as fans have dubbed it already, the Death Star, which I actually like. It's pretty cool.
I don't know if you guys have been by there, but the glass sidings are already going up around the stadium. It's unbelievable how fast they're moving.
Oh, it's crazy how fast they're moving. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, Moe Moton joins us here on Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. One of the high points through the first 2 weeks of the Raiders' 2019 season has been some great improvement by their defense, particularly the run defense. But as well as they've played, today Minnesota is going to be a big test for this young John Gruden team. And joining us on the Attorney Michael Troiano Newsmaker line is senior NFL columnist for Silver and Black Today, also contributor at Bleacher Report, and right here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Moe Moton. Mo, how's your Sunday going, man? The third Sunday of the season. You ready for some more football?
I'm absolutely ready. First of all, I just want to say it's good to see Kelly back. I'm glad he can step away from his modeling career to give us some of his time. I know he's a busy man.
Yep. he is. He's a busy man and in high demand, so it is good to have him back. And you guys can mix it up here in a minute. Now, Mo, let's jump into your latest column, which you can find at silverandblacktoday.com. Ran yesterday. Your point was that this game for the Raiders' run defense is really their first big test, facing the Vikings, who rank second in the NFL in rushing with 370 yards. Tell us about this challenge ahead for the Raiders this morning as they kick off here in a little while. Why is it going to be sort of a litmus test for them and for this young group up front?
Well, the Vikings completely, I don't want to say completely, but they revamped their offensive attack. Last year, they were very pass-heavy team, sixth most pass attempts, 27th in rush attempts. This year, it's split 32nd in pass attempts, 4th in rush attempts. So they have a lot of confidence in Dalvin Cook since he's healthy. He's missed, I believe, 17 games in his first 2 years. Tore his ACL in his first year. Started out pretty well with 4th in the league in rushing. Went down with that injury. Last year, he had a nagging hamstring injury, so you didn't really get the full effect of him. The other thing is they revamped their offensive line. Of course, they drafted Garrett Bradbury in the first round. He's their center. They signed Josh Klein, who's a serviceable right guard. Moved Pat Elflein, who was struggling at center, to left guard. So an offensive line performing pretty well. Running back is healthy. They also drafted Alexander Madison in the third round of the draft. So if Cook has some issues, they can also go to their rookie. So it's going to be a healthy team. It's going to be a team that's playing at its best and performing pretty well. I know Kirk Cousins hasn't played well, but the rush game is their bread and butter, so the Raiders are going to have to prepare for that.
Hey, Mo, it's Kelly here. And don't worry, when the new headshots come in, you're the first one to get one, my man. We're going all out.
I'll be looking forward to that. Slide those into my DMs. I need them.
Yeah. We can get that done. You know, you mentioned the run game, but to me today just seems like the kind of, especially with our secondary kind of beat up, that Kirk Cousins might finally get on track, have a decent game with Diggs and Thielen. It's like, do you think that may be something the Vikings are looking to maybe press a little more to get them in some kind of rhythm? Because we all know you can't just depend on Dalvin Cook staying healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. We watched the Raiders' pass defense basically self-destruct in the second quarter last week against the Chiefs, and it's a copycat league, so I'm sure the Vikings looked into that and said, we'll try that, of course, because Cousins is not shy about throwing the football. It's just how much they're going to let him throw. When you got Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen on the outside, you got to give yourself a chance, especially, again, after what happened with Raiders' pass defense last week. I know Joyner and Gunther said it was communication issues, but I think it's a little more than that. Conley's been banged up a little bit. Joyner had a rough time, so we'll see how Cousins throws the ball. And I think, like you said, if he does, I think he's going to have some success, and it could be the week that he breaks out of his funk. I did have him on my fantasy sleeper lineup, so look out for that.
Yep. Hey, Mo, Chaz Osborne here. You talked about the Vikings' health. I know there were a lot of questions for the Raiders on Friday before they got on the plane. They were asking Gruden all the questions. And have you heard has there been any updates on any of the Raiders players as far as, Burfict was questionable and Denzel Good, LaMarcus Joyner? Any updates for us this morning?
No updates as far as those players. I know early there was some good news that Trent Brown was definitely going to be a go. I know he had a knee injury. He did practice, I believe, at the beginning of the week. He practiced on Friday, gave it a go. So it's good to have Trent Brown out there. As far as you mentioned, Burfict and Joyner, those guys, no update on that. I know they're looking at P.J. Hall also was sick this week, so we might see Corey Legion out there.
Yep.
But again, a banged-up team is not good, especially after how they played against a healthier team.
Yeah.
And you wonder how those injuries are going to affect the game for us.
Also hearing there was some sort of a virus going around. Josh Jacobs and a few others were sick, so I didn't know if there was any update on.
Actually had to think about benching Josh Jacobs today. Lost 10 pounds, and he's dealing with a sore hip. But as far as Vic Tafer said from the Athletics, they're saying that he's good to go. But I just don't like his matchup this week. Again, a sore hip and dropped 10 pounds, not good.
Yep. Yeah, that's tough. Again, we're talking to Moe Moton, senior NFL columnist with silverandblacktoday.com and also Bleacher Report contributor here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Mo, in that column, you brought up something, too, around the defense that I find interesting, and I think a lot of people have noticed, and that is the 2018 draft picks up front, P.J. Hall and Mo Hurst. They've played less than 50% of the team's defensive snaps. That's hard to understand. Do you have any hypothesis of why that may be?
I feel like those two guys are young. It is their second year. I know Raiders fans want everyone to be pro as soon as they come into the league, but it just doesn't work that way. And a lot of people, this is something that was interesting. A lot of people had questions about Mo Hurst playing a lot of preseason snaps and wondering, was it because he, needed the snaps, or was that his decision? Was the coach's decision? Again, I'm very high on Mo Hurst. I think he's going to be a quality player. But again, it is his second year. And they do have Jonathan Hankins playing close to 75% of defensive snaps. He's a seventh-year veteran, knows what he's doing out there. He's actually playing pretty well. Leads the team in run stops with 6. So I think that coach staff just trusts their veteran players a lot more at this point in the season. And as you get to the mid-season, late season, you'll see more Mo Hurst, more P.J. Hall getting, I would say, maybe close to 60% of the snaps, depending on where the Raiders are, their record, playoff picture, stuff of that matter. But again, two young players that just need to gain their footing before they get a full workload.
Yeah, work their way in, exactly. So Moe Moton, senior NFL columnist, you can follow him on Twitter at MoeMoton. Read his latest column this morning before the game starts so you can get his 2 cents on that, silverandblacktoday.com. Mo, as always, thanks for joining us, man. We will talk to you next time, and we'll be reading you here, I'm sure, next week. Thanks, man.
Appreciate you guys having me on.
Thanks, Mo.
All
Thanks,
right.
Mo.
Mo Moton joined us on the scene, attorney Michael Troiano, newsmaker line. And guys, what Mo had to say there about the issues with the defense, or I should say not issues, but the fact that this will be a big test for them with Dalvin Cook, dead on. And you're right, Kelly. I have that kind of, is this the week Kirk Cousins goes nuts, right, against the Raiders, but you just don't know.
Well, not even nuts, just be like a replacement level QB at this point.
Right, yes. Just a guy who can put his team into position to win. All right. We are at the top of the hour for the sports update from CBS Sports back in New York. We're going to step aside. When we return, Manny Hill from SkorNorth 1500 Radio in Minneapolis will join us to give us more in-depth preview of the Vikings today as kickoff is rolling forward. You're listening to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. The nation and the league arrive in Las Vegas in 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black Today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio. Again, the Raiders are out in Minneapolis as they end up on that long road trip. You're talking a 5-game, 7-week road trip away from the Oakland Coliseum. And their first stop is in Minneapolis at US Bank Stadium. Well, they'll take on the Minnesota Vikings, the 1-1 Minnesota Vikings, fresh off a loss at home to their nemesis, their arch rival, of course, that is the Green Bay Packers, 21-16 last week. In that game, Kirk Cousins didn't have the best game. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but also we want to bring in our guest who's going to talk about today's game, and that is Manny Hill from SkorNorth Radio 1500 in Minneapolis. He covers, in addition to the Vikings, all sports that is Minnesota, and we know what great sports fans they have up there. Manny, welcome to the Silver and Black Today.
Thanks for having me on, Scott. I'm excited to talk with you.
All right, well, let's jump in. This team, 17-7 at US Bank Stadium, so it's a tough place for opponents to come in and win. Of course, the Vikings coming off that road loss against Green Bay, where, let's face it, Kirk Cousins was not exactly lighting it up. Last week, he had 230 yards, a touchdown, but 2 interceptions. And it just seems, Manny, and I don't know what the perception with fans and folks like you up there are, but it just seems as though Kirk Cousins in big games seems to struggle. In other games, not so much. What's the deal, and kind of what's the read from those of you up in Minneapolis on Kirk Cousins and where he's at?
Well, I think we're starting to find out now, and really this goes back to last season, Scott, that why the Washington Redskins were so willing to just let Kirk Cousins walk in free agency and why they made the trade for Alex Smith last year. Kirk has, for the most part, has just really come up small and come up short when this team has needed him to show up in big games and primetime games. I mean, they had an opportunity to get into the playoffs against the Chicago Bears in Week 17 last year, and Kirk Cousins did not show up. The offense did not perform well, and the Bears were basically trying to hand the Vikings that game. The Bears were not playing all of their starters because they had their playoff positioning already locked up, and so the Vikings Moses had basically parted the Red Sea for them to get into the playoffs last year, and they still ended up coming up short, and that is sort of that's the last taste that Vikings fans have had in their mouth going into this season. And when you look at last week, them being able to beat the Atlanta Falcons, not really needing Kirk Cousins to throw the ball a lot. He only threw the ball 10 times. He dropped back 11 times because the running game was so strong and the defense performed well. And then you look at last week, Cousins not performing well. I mean, the question of can this guy be the guy to take this team to the Super Bowl is there's a huge question mark there, and right now a lot of fans have their doubts.
Well, yeah, and if you look at the tools that he has, of course, from a receiving standpoint, you have Adam Thielen, one of the best in the game, and Stephon Diggs, and then you add in, of course, Dalvin Cook at running back. It's hard to understand. You look at the Vikings, and one of my questions for you was around this, and we'll talk about the defense in a second, was how far did people going in, with Kirk Cousins at the helm and all the other things that have been happening there, how far off did folks think that this team was from being a truly Super Bowl caliber team?
Well, I think when they signed Kirk Cousins in the offseason in 2018, they were coming off an appearance in the NFC Championship game with Case Keenum at quarterback. And I think the thought was that, okay, well, we just got to the title game. If we can just find a little bit more stability at the quarterback position and upgrade that position, that's going to be the missing piece for us. But they didn't account for, I don't think, a lot of the shortcomings that Kirk Cousins had in Washington, and it sort of reared its ugly little head last year. And now going into this year, it is a question mark of, all right, well, we've changed the offense now for Kirk Cousins. We brought in Gary Kubiak to be an offensive advisor, and one of my colleagues here at SkorNorth, Judge Zolgad, he calls Gary Kubiak the head coach of offense, and Mike Zimmer's head coach defense. But it's like, okay, we've done all these offseason moves. We went and drafted Garrett Bradbury in the first round to be the franchise center of the future. We moved our starting center, Pat Elflein, to left guard. We went and got Josh Klein in free agency, and he played in the zone blocking scheme in Tennessee last year. We've tried to upgrade the offensive line. We've got Dalvin Cook back and healthy. Hopefully, you've got these two rock star wide receivers. You still got a really good, reliable tight end in Kyle Rudolph. And, oh, by the way, this defense is fantastic. What else is there that needs to be done now? We've given Kirk Cousins everything you could possibly imagine for a quarterback, and for whatever reason, he's still underperforming. And I don't know. It's a hard thing to figure out with all the different moves that they've made to try and help this quarterback, and he's still underperforming an $84 million fully guaranteed contract.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Manny Hill, of course, from SkorNorth Radio 1500 in Minneapolis, joins us to talk about the Vikings, who the Raiders will be kicking off here in just about an hour in Minneapolis at US Bank Stadium. You mentioned Dalvin Cook. I mean, this kid is just phenomenal. 191 scrimmage yards, including 154 rushing and 37 receiving. He had a 75-yard touchdown run last week. And, I mean, he's just, when he's healthy, like you said, he's hard to stop. Now, the Raiders and Vikings come in, both teams, with good rush defenses, right? But it looks like with Dalvin Cook in there, the Vikings always feel as though they're in the game as long as he's healthy and running the ball.
Oh, he's a difference maker. I mean, this kid is, when he's healthy, and again, that's a big if. He's the total X factor for this offense. I mean, it's amazing what he's been able to do these first 2 weeks of the season. Last week, 154 yards on the ground at Lambeau. Last year was a tough year for him because he was coming off the unfortunate ACL injury that he suffered in his rookie year. And, he was just never really able to get into a full rhythm, and he had the hamstring problems. And so he was never really able to get on the field and stay on the field consistently and to be the effective back that he was before the injury in his rookie year. Because if you go back to his rookie year in 2017, he got hurt in Week 4 against Detroit. He was on his way to being possibly the NFL's offensive rookie of the year. The way he was performing, he was among the league leaders in rushing yards, and then he had the tragic ACL injury, and now he's a year removed from recovering from that injury, and he's been fantastic. He's been unbelievable, and he is really the driving force of this offense now. If this offense is really going to go, when you factor in how Kirk Cousins has performed, and Thielen and Diggs being terrific, but they're only going to be as good as Kirk Cousins can be for them in the passing game. I mean, this offense starts with Dalvin Cook, and if he is productive like he's been the last couple of weeks, this offense will have a chance to score points. They just need this quarterback to not turn the ball over and make huge mistakes.
Well, yeah, and I think that's going to be the key to the game today, which is the Raiders are going to have to do all that they can to contain Cook and make Cousins beat them, in essence. And for the Vikings, that's the challenge as well, right? Which is if they can't get Cook off to the regular start that he usually has and domination that he's usually seen, then they're going to have to go to the pass. And they have the tools there, but can Cousins do it? It's going to be interesting to watch. Now, on defense, you look at the Vikings and you look at guys like defensive end Danielle Hunter, Linval Joseph. These guys are tied for second in the NFL with 4 tackles for a loss. This defense, especially up front, really, really playing solid ball. Tell us, what is their strength? What kind of problems are they going to create for Derek Carr and that kind of Raiders' new look offense?
Well, they are really, really strong, really at every level. There's a dynamic player at every level of this defense. You mentioned Danielle Hunter, and Linval Joseph is one of the best nose tackles in the NFL. But another guy is Everson Griffin, who's really gotten off to a terrific start this year. Last year was a down year for Everson because he was dealing with some off the field non-football related things, and he missed some time. And even when he came back last year, he just wasn't the same player. But he looks a lot like the guy that we saw in 2017, which is one of the best pass rushing defensive ends in the National Football League. And so you've got those two ends, and then you've got Joseph in the middle. It is a very formidable front, and the linebacking core with Kendricks and Bars is outstanding as well. And Harrison Smith still remains one of the best safeties in the NFL. So if there is, I guess, a weak point in the defense right now, it's depth in the secondary. Xavier Rhodes has kind of declined a little bit. He was one of the best cover corners in the league in 2017. 2 years later now, he's just not quite the same guy. Trey Waynes is in a contract year trying to play for a new contract off of his rookie deal. He's really solid, but they're dealing with some injuries behind that. Mackenzie Alexander is banged up and missing some time now over the next few weeks. And Mike Hughes, their first-round pick last year, missed time last year with an ACL. He's coming off of that injury, and he's close to returning. Not sure. I have not heard if he's going to be in action today, but that's probably the weak point of the defense is just the depth in the secondary. But this is a very formidable unit, Scott, and they're going to be tough to move the ball on, especially at US Bank Stadium.
Yeah, they certainly are. It's going to be an interesting game today. And, of course, the Vikings going for their 500th franchise win. Tell me, are they going to win it, Manny, and what's the score going to be?
I think they do get it done. I think they are coming off a really questionable performance at Lambeau, a game that should have been won by them, and I think they feel that way. I think they're going to come into this game today upset and ready to go against a Raiders team that is not to be underestimated. I mean, I think that they've got some pieces there in Oakland and soon in Vegas, obviously, that to work with, and I think John Gruden's doing a pretty solid job considering what he has to work with. So the Vikings cannot take this Raiders team lightly, but I do think they'll get it done at home. They're a much better home team than a road team, and I think they'll get it done 28-17. Today.
All right, 28-17. That's Manny Hill from SkorNorth Radio 1500 in Minneapolis. And Manny, good luck the rest of the season, and I'll tell you what, I think this is going to be a knockdown, drag-em-out game, and I do agree with you. I think the Vikings will prevail. And really, for me, I think for both teams, sort of early on, yes, it's early, of course, but I think a must-win for both squads. I think that Minnesota offense needs to get on track, and they'll be feeling pretty good, and the Raiders have a lot of issues that they got to deal with, especially coming off that loss to Mahomes and the Chiefs. Manny, we'll take care, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Scott, good to talk to you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Manny Hill from SkorNorth Radio in 1500 Minneapolis. We're going to step aside. We'll be back more with Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Hi, this is Steve Wisniewski, and you're listening to Silver and Black Today.
Indeed, you are. Welcome back to Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. By the way, Steve Wisniewski's son is a Las Vegas Metro police officer.
That's right.
Just so you know, he's already invested in Las Vegas. His son is protecting all of us, so thank him if you see him. All right, we are back to football. We're about 40 minutes away from kickoff in Minneapolis, the Great White North, the former home of the Minnesota North Stars.
Oh, wow.
The old Norris division, right?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so here we are. Joining us for this segment and for the rest of the show, unless Kelly kicks her out sooner, is the goalie, Lindsey Brown.
Good morning, gentlemen.
How are you, Lindsey?
I am rejecting the morning this morning, but I am good. I'm excited for this matchup, and I'm excited to be wearing my purple jersey this morning.
Well, I know, and this is where our social media channels will light up, and people will be like, why the hell is she wearing that jersey?
How dare you? How dare you be a fan
but we
of
got
someone.
the black ones on the wall, so there you go.
Yes.
All right, so Lindsey, thanks for being with us today. Now, when we look at the Vikings today, we want to get your opinion, and the guys are going to jump in here too. When it comes to the offense, to me, I'm sorry, let me back up. For the Raiders today, they have to me, it's all about the offense today. Yes, look, Dalvin Cook, I think, is going to have a good game. He's going to get what he gets. But if Derek Carr and the offense can get rolling and put Minnesota in a position where they're not playing exactly the game they want to be, that to me is the chance that the Raiders guys have the opportunity to go in and really pick up a really important road win. I think this is, as I said, a must-win for both teams. What do you guys think? Am I right with that? Is offense the key here?
For Oakland, it is definitely.
That's what I mean. Yeah, absolutely.
The Minnesota offense hasn't looked great, but, I mean, you've had Dalvin Cook having some big games. He's leading the league in rushing right now. Cousins is never going to be a huge gunslinger, but he's got to do something. Like, he's absolute trash right now.
Trash, the first trash of the day.
And for Oakland, it's like we saw the first quarter against Kansas City. You need more of that. We need some kind of consistency because it's just, I mean, there's just been nothing very inspirational for the first two games of the season on the offense, with the exception of Jacobs.
Well, yeah, and that to me, I mean, if you look at it from the perspective of Derek Carr had a great first game. Darren Waller had a great first game. I mean, the weapons that he has are there. Sorry, you don't have a cough button.
No, it's okay. I'll cough in the corner.
But Lindsey, this minute. So the big issue here for the Raiders going into Minneapolis, besides the really quiet crowd, is the fact that
there's so many jokes being thrown around right now. I love it.
I love the big horn. By the way.
Oh, the Gallahorn.
The Gallahorn.
It's
What's it called?
Awesome. The Gallahorn.
Gallahorn.
It's awesome.
But think of the Ewoks. Just like a bunch of little kids running around.
Whatever.
Yeah, we saw what happened to them at the end of the
we have a cool trombone. What can we say?
That's right.
Yep.
Now, when you look at this, though, Lindsey, the Vikings defense, your Vikings defense, why do you think they're going to be able to disrupt the Raiders' offense enough to really hold on to give your sub-average quarterback the opportunity to win the game?
Well, I think there are a lot of factors going into it. Obviously, Minnesota is known for their defense. Mike Zimmer, that's his bread and butter, his baby. They've retained most of that side of the ball for the better part of the last 4 or 5 seasons. And the big thing that the Raiders need to take advantage of to succeed is getting into that second layer, getting past that, obviously the offensive line. But if you guys watched any tape on that Green Bay game, which it was ugly for the Minnesota Vikings, especially in that first quarter, Rodgers was just like having that pass rush come right at him, wait till they go, and then he would just dump it off about 20 yards down the field, and taking advantage of the cornerback depth that has been plaguing the Vikings this year with their first-round pick from last year. Mike Hughes still out. And Xavier Rhodes really hasn't been up to snuff, at least this season and for the better part of last season as well. So that's how the Raiders succeed, is getting those guys to basically bite and then just passing right over their head. But if they think that they're going to mash up through the line or Derek Carr holding on to the ball too long and being like, oh, Everson Griffin on my left and Danielle Hunter on my right, things aren't going to go super well. So it's going to be a lot about timing for the Raiders, I think.
Yeah, and both those teams, very similar starts. The opening game, they looked really well. Second game, they both, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of miscommunications. So we'll see which team shows up for both sides today, and that'll be the one that'll...
Absolutely. The Raiders are completely capable of winning this game. And everybody, from what I've been listening to back home and nationally, everybody's pretty much written off the Vikings are going to just roll over. Yeah. And I'm like, that absolutely could happen where the Vikings could steamroll. And like you said, Dalvin Cook could run for 250 and 3 scores. He really could. Yep. And Kirk Cousins, even if they do tie his hand behind his back, I think that he's going to be good for at least 1 touchdown today. But if they're not scoring, if things aren't firing for them like they were last week, it could get, if the Raiders can keep this low scoring, they have a very good shot of winning this game.
And the health issue, too. The Vikings are healthy, and the Raiders have a lot of questions. So
yes.
That's going to come into play as well. But I feel like Kirk Cousins will be the Raiders' best player today.
Wow.
Like he usually is.
And that's the thing with the Vikings.
Yeah.
They really feel good. I mean, you're 2 years removed from the NFC Championship game and the big miracle.
My first and only NFL game that I've ever been that I've ever attended.
That was your first game.
I can't ever go back. I can't.
Yeah,
I can't.
You're done. It's I'm good.
I'm done. It was the craziest sports moment that I've ever been a part of. That's for sure.
So you're sort of like Minneapolis' Bartman.
Yeah.
I mean. Yeah, for the Vikings, I guess.
Out here in Vegas.
But then again,
witness protection
that's
program.
why you're out here. They said, get out of here.
We can't set that precedent. You're going to get in my goalie mind now. You're like, you affect everything. No, they don't. It doesn't matter. But it was awesome. It was cool. Sorry, I interrupted your question.
No, that's great. Well, I was going to ask you, though, because we've talked a lot about what the teams need to do. Obviously, the Vikings have to get Cook going. They have to get Cousins going. They have to play the defense how they're capable of playing it if they can play up to their ability. But when you look at the rest of the game and environment, since you're from Minneapolis and you're wearing your purple People Eater jersey here in the studio, which jersey is that?
This is a Danielle Hunter jersey because that is my favorite player.
That's your guy.
On the Vikings. Yep.
Okay, so for Raider fans, Raider fans are notorious for following their team. They go on the road, so I'm sure there'll be a nice contingent of Raider fans, just like there will be when we're in London in a couple weeks. But what's the atmosphere like in Minnesota, just for any given game? I know for Green Bay and some other regional games, it's a bigger issue. But it's a downtown stadium like here in Las Vegas, urban, not any parking around it. But there's a lot to do in downtown Minneapolis. What do people do before Vikings games before they head out?
Well, it kind of depends. If you have tickets, people are obviously going to flock downtown. There are tons of bars surrounding the U.S. Bank Stadium, which is, I believe, in its 3rd or 4th season now. The giant glass house, literally, with the bird killer. The bird killer. Now we're digging really deep into sensitive subjects. But the inside the stadium, and you can hear it when if you're watching on the TV, and the very limited experience that I had in the once in a lifetime moment. Before in that first half against New Orleans, everybody was losing their minds because we were kicking butt. We were just marching down the field. We pick off Drew Brees. It's a great time. We're exercising demons, and it's great. And then the tide turns, and that starts to the second half. And if the Vikings aren't playing well, it's quiet. And they'll boo. They will. That's the other thing about Minnesota, too. We are just as cursed as anybody else around as a city, not only in Vikings lore, but in all sports. We haven't won a championship since 1991. I was in utero the last time there was a parade. So
the Twinkies.
It's a depressing scene sometimes. But when things are going well, and if it's against a big opponent like the Packers, but the Raiders are a legacy franchise, so I think it's going to be loud. And that's gonna factor into the game, especially when the Raiders are on offense, because the Vikings do a really good job of pumping up that crowd. They use a lot of music. They use a lot of gala horns and all of these different things that they try to get.
How big is that horn?
Chant. It's massive. It's 15 feet maybe. I don't know. They haven't asked me to go back and blow the gala horn for them.
Oh, they will. They will.
Maybe
eventually.
Next year? Maybe. But yeah, I think the Purple People Eaters are actually in town this weekend to do that. So that's what they're there for.
Well, and I know you'll be at the Blue Ox probably, right? You'll rush out to the game?
I don't know if I'm going to make it up to the Blue Ox this week because I have to go. I was at Life is Beautiful Festival yesterday. I have to go back down there today, and my life is currently in shambles. So I need to regroup myself before I put myself back into the coolest music festival I've ever been to.
Now, the important question, though, and this is a roundtable discussion now, or as they say on all the political shows, our panel.
Yeah. We're going to open up to our panelists.
Not so distinguished panel. Is, Lindsey, your favorite Minneapolis-born musical act?
Oh, goodness. I'm going to get yelled at. I mean, the problem is that there's not... Well, right now I would say Lizzo, but that's blasphemy. She's actually not from Minneapolis. Lizzo, come on, truth hurts.
Honestly, I've never heard of Lizzo. I'm old.
Your run of the mill answers are always going to be Prince and Bob Dylan, and so I'm going to say Prince and Bob Dylan. They are great. They are great. We love them.
You forgot to me the most important one, but I'll get to that in a second.
Well, when you say run of the mill, you mean right answers. That's like like the run of the mill answer for 2 + 2 is 4.
Sure,
because it's right.
Okay. Fair enough. I wasn't a math major, so that was there. But I'm not a huge Prince and Bob Dylan because it's just not my generation. But I understand the impact and the importance and the respect is there.
What's the name of that bar downtown with all the stars painted on the outside with all the
that's First Ave. That's the cool concert venue downtown.
Yeah,
that's where all
Prince,
the
I got shushed out of
that's where
some
Prince
bar.
would just chill.
Is Falco from
and that's where he recorded. That's where he recorded.
Falco, the German singer?
Yes,
Rock Me On a Dance.
I believe so.
So wait, Falco. What are you talking about?
What are you
I can't remember his name. I got shushed out of somebody.
You were at
in
Life is
Minnesota.
Beautiful yesterday. I just
We
didn't
walked
see you.
into a bar and we were being loud, having fun, and some act was up there, and it was a Minnesota guy, and they shushed us right out of the bar. They made us leave because we were being too loud. Like,
show some damn respect.
I thought you stopped by the dispensary on the way here. No, but for me, we're talking Minnesota Vikings and Oakland Raiders about to kick off here in about 30 minutes. To me, the best band to come out of Minneapolis, my favorite band, I should say, to come out of Minneapolis, not the best, my favorite, The Replacements. Paul Westerberg and The Replacements. It's phenomenal. Anyway, but that's me. I'm dating myself. But nonetheless, you talk Prince and all that stuff. Kelly, who did you say? You don't know who The Replacements are. Oh, my God. All right,
okay. I won't make you feel bad for your lack of knowledge.
They're going to bring in some replacements for this show.
I don't listen to music.
Okay. Nobody likes fun in here. All right.
Kelly doesn't like any joy.
No, I find that spending my time, reading and doing other things like that are a little more enriching than listening to somebody.
I read while I'm
scream
listening to music.
Yeah. You can read.
You can't do two things at once in here. How can you do it at home?
Are you kidding me?
What about audiobooks? Oh.
It depends on who reads them because I love Malcolm Gladwell, but his audio, I'm on the treadmill running in the gym and fell asleep with his audiobook.
Would you like to hear my book?
I don't like
Malcolm
music.
Gladwell.
What do you do?
It's crazy. All right, we've gone a little bit over. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to have Kelly's Corner, and Lindsey's going to be here for that. She's never sat in Kelly, and she's actually sitting physically in Kelly's Corner.
No.
Holy crap! You have a spectator in Kelly's Corner.
I might have to change my corner now.
You might.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
All right, you're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Oh, yeah, we're back. We're live. And it's always interesting when people, we cover the Raiders. We're obviously a Raider-focused show. But Lindsey Brown joins us, of course. Lindsey's one of our squad here at CBS Sports Radio 1140. Squad goals. But she's wearing her Vikings jersey. She's a Minnesota native, as you can tell by her accent.
Okay.
And she's wearing her jersey. I'm getting people asking me, why are you letting her wear that in there? Like it's not the Raiders locker room, guys. I know you think you're on the team.
Still.
But no.
We can burn it later. It's okay, guys.
It's all
Remain
good.
calm.
Because just like we have visiting reporters on, we also have fans on sometimes. We're focused on the Raiders, but we're giving Lindsey plenty of crap. She just tried to hang another Vikings jersey in the studio.
Oh, you mean this one? Jared Allen from back in the day that's on my desk so I can look at it every day.
Oh my goodness!
But
well,
don't
yes.
you want
so
passionate
she
football?
wanted to hang it next to the great Lyle Alzado's jersey, which we would not let her do. So just so you know, there's some things we don't allow.
You're in charge of the cameras over there, so just cut her camera.
You could just cut my feet. I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad.
We're not letting her do everything she'd like to do because we would have like purple mic stands, all this kind of stuff. Anyway.
Okay.
It is time for everyone's favorite segment, and that, of course, is Kelly's Corner, where Kelly has a subject that he wants to talk about. He rolls out of bed this morning and he says, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, not Moe Moton, but eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and let's go. And here is Kelly's Corner.
Yeah, have I ever talked about how much I hate Tom Brady? I have a hatred of Tom Brady.
Oh, we can talk.
For many, many reasons, but that's not important right now. The NFL has done something that makes me feel like a terrible person. I found myself agreeing with Tom Brady Thursday night when he was complaining about all the penalties being called in football.
Yep.
Damn you, NFL. I am siding with Tom Brady on something. I know that they had the initiative go out that holding, offense, defensive holding, they wanted to kind of work on that and call it a little more. And in typical NFL referee fashion, they do something and they go so far over the top it starts to ruin the game. Well, now we get to see the other side of the regression coming up to where they had a meeting the other day with the officials. So now the officials aren't going to be calling holding like they have in the first couple weeks. Mm-hmm. How about you don't give an edict to your officials? You say, hey, guys, here's the rules. Go out and, officiate this football game and just leave it the hell alone.
Yep.
You're basically taking football out of football by every time you're tweaking a rule, adjusting a rule. Nobody knows what the hell's going on, and we're starting to see this with the officials now calling a million penalties.
No, and I agree with you. I think that it was a little bit out of control because of the reason you're saying, which is they give them these edicts of you got to do this, you got to do that. So wanting to do a good job, let's face it, they're humans. They want to do a good job. They go out and they say, okay, the league has told us we need to call more holding because remember, I also blame NFL coaches. NFL coaches and teams have been clamoring. There's holding. You got to call more holding. So they do. And they increase it as of Thursday night, 64% increase in the call of offensive holding.
Yikes.
64. Now, if it was 30%, that would seem like a lot. But 64%, that's more than half, yes.
What?
for the math majors here on the Silver and Black today. So to me, I agree with your point, Kelly. I think there's emphasis, there's this player safety. There's still the quarterback issue where you got guys now tackling, letting their arms off, which could result in injury more for them. So trying to alleviate the weight going all on the quarterback, and they still get called for it.
Right.
So there's so much inconsistency, and I think that's the problem. Anything, as somebody who raises 5 kids, you have to be consistent. If you're not consistent, they'll eat you alive, and I think that's what we're seeing.
This happens every year, though, because I feel like there's always some big rule change that they overcall in the first couple weeks just to basically warn everybody off, and then they dial it back, and it kind of goes back to normal. But the games at the front end of the season do matter, and there have been games that have been decided from bad calls already this season. I think that's where people get frustrated because you're like, I thought this was supposed to make it better, but the big thing for me is that review thing is where New York can review it, and even if it's not called on the field. We're like, we're just having the all-seeing eye in the sky now, like that's what's going on, but hopefully it regresses back to the mean a little bit, but I share with you in your overall dislike in Tom Brady, Cal. And I found myself also agreeing with him on Twitter, but he is. But
it also
Twitter,
starts to affect the players. Now, here's Max Crosby got fined by the league for his hit on Patrick Mahomes last week, and he was trying to hold up. He jumped up in the air because Mahomes gave him a fake pump and landed on him, but you could see him put his hands down. Even in that Thursday night game, I probably didn't decide the game, but when the Titans got called for the and you could clearly see the player come in with his shoulder, hold himself up from landing on the quarterback, and they still called roughing the passer. So, to your point, it's affecting outcomes of games. It's affecting players' wallets, and that's going to be a problem.
Yeah,
it is. And the thing with the Tom Brady tweet too, it's like, should Tom Brady complain about officiating When he's the beneficiary of soft officiating.
That's how you know how bad it is, when the guy that gets the most benefit from everything's like, okay, now this is even bad in my opinion.
He got his own rule, even, for goodness sakes.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and that's my point, right? And you have that, and then you have, of course, the story this week as well. Even more reason to hate Tom Brady by de facto connection was in a game last week. Who did they play last week again?
Miami.
I forgot. Miami. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Gets tackled, and they said, and the referee tells the player, the defensive player, you can't land on Tom. He calls him Tom. Now, if he says you can't land on the quarterback, no problem. But the fact that a referee is calling a player by his first name, and I know they might see each other all the time, but referees can't sign autographs. They can't do pictures with people because that's part of the impartiality. So when you call a player by his first name, to me, it just all the conspiracy theories, especially those of our friends in Raider Nation, come to life, don't they, Kelly? Because you're just reinforcing the point.
Yeah, it's not like he called the backup punter by his first name and gave him. It's Tom Brady. Everybody in the NFL knows who Tom Brady is, so I don't have a problem with that. But yeah, it's like if you're going down the line calling everybody by their first name, there's an issue. But Tom Brady's kind of known in the NFL.
Slightly.
But that's not the point. You don't call him by the name. You don't call if you go into court and your nickname is Jonesy and the judge walks in and you're like, okay, he's going to call you Mr. Smith or
all
whatever he's going to call you.
Mr. Jonesy.
Right. Or he's going to say, hey, Jonesy, let me ask you a question. No, you wouldn't do it because it's a professional game. You have to show you can't call it. It points to a level of familiar. Why can't I say this word now? Being familiar, I'm going to just punt.
You're
punting.
math
I'm
major,
punting.
yeah.
I'm like the Dolphins on every third down. Or fourth down. I'm punting. But you know what I'm saying? You go in, and as a professional, you're going to handle yourself in a certain way. Lindsey's learning this, covering hockey and seeing all the fanboy media in town, right? You go, and you're supposed to do things a certain way, and some people just ignore it. They just don't do it. Now, again, I'm not saying he was being partial to Tom Brady, but you just open the door to questions. That's my main point.
It makes sense.
And there it is on television. They're showing Tom Brady and his tweet.
No.
Perfect timing.
I do enjoy his tweeting, though. For some reason, since he's been active on social media in the last year and a half, he has some funny things.
That's like the only thing of his I've seen.
Yeah.
But it just popped up. I was
It's so
like, Jesus.
concocted, though.
The NFL.
Yeah.
Well,
aren't we all?
He's fake as that food he's selling in his cookbook. Of course everything's
We'll
concocted.
buy his food, but follow him on Twitter.
All right. That was, I always love Kelly's Corner because they're always good questions and provocative stuff to talk about. And that's what we did. All right. We're going to step aside. We come back. We're bringing it home towards kickoff here in about 15 minutes in Minneapolis at US Bank Stadium. When we come back, we're going to talk about our picks for today's game, the Raiders and the Vikings, and also we'll continue our NFL picks. You're listening to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back, Raider Nation, to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. If you're on your way out to the Henderson Pavilion for the team's official game watch, have fun with that. The weather looks great. So nice when the weather breaks here. I like the heat, but at the same time, when it breaks in the fall, really killer. All right, we're going to get now into something that we like to do each week, and that is pick the Raiders game and who's going to win. And because we are we're hosts that like to make sure that those that visit us feel warm and at home. We're going to let the woman wearing the purple jersey.
I feel so warm and so at home in this room.
Go first, Lindsey.
It is kind of hot in here today.
It is usually cold, and now it's warm today. It's opposite the season always. It's weird. But anyway, Lindsey, you think the Raiders are going to win, but what's the score?
I don't think the Raiders are going to win.
What's the score going to be?
She knows
I just
the Raiders
think that it is a possibility that not everyone is acknowledging, that it's a very real possibility. I'm just trying to be a realist because that's what I am.
Right, because you're in Kelly's corner, and that's the realist corner.
I've been put in the corner, and usually I'm turned the other way, but you guys have allowed me to give the score prediction. So I will say Vikings 27, Raiders 24.
27-24 Vikings.
With Carlson, with 5 field goals.
The guy you cut loose. Yes.
Whoops.
Okay, so then We're going to do this. So we have so far Lindsey, 27. You said 27-24?
Yep.
So a 3-point game. And now, for those of you watching on video, I'm going to put up the predictions we have. Here's our picks. We have Chaz, ever the optimist. He has the Raiders. He's the only one with the Raiders today. 30-27. He thinks it's going to be higher scoring.
They are playing Kirk Cousins, so there's a couple of pick sixes right there.
So we have Chaz, 30-27. Moe Moton, who was on earlier in the show, he's picked the Vikings at 24-13. And that makes sense because Mo thought it was going to be a much lower scoring game. Kelly, you have the Vikings 27-20, so by a touch, right?
Yep.
And what's the line?
9.
It was 8.5 or 9, and then the total was around 46.5 yesterday.
That's what's interesting. None of us have the Vikings covering, so that's key. So Kelly, 27-20, and I had 24-20 Vikings. So out of the 5 of us here, we have just one Raiders pick, and that is Chaz Osborne. Chaz, why are they going to win?
Person in the room.
Why are they going to win?
Listen, Raider fans, one thing the Raider fans are not worried about is the Minnesota Vikings. Like, the Vikings have been in the Raiders' rearview mirror since Super Bowl 11. Beat down.
What is that?
Any Vikings team that goes 0-4 in the Super Bowl, they don't even have a place in the standings. So I don't know why anybody would think otherwise. It's just... it's going to be Black Sunday today.
Ding, ding, ding,
At
ding.
least the Bills made it to 4 in a row. You know, that's
Exactly.
impressive. Just
Right.
losing 4 Super Bowls, just losing 4 Super
Yeah,
Bowls.
it's, you know.
Are you feeling ganged up on yet?
No,
Lindsey?
not at all. I feel great.
Yeah, but look on the bright side. It's not like their stadium kills a lot of birds or anything.
Nope, definitely not. We are an eco-friendly stadium at US Bank Stadium.
Oh my gosh! Well,
Yeah, Philly wins there all the time, don't they?
Yeah, that seems to be a problem. Well, I really don't understand why this is happening in such a big wave, but
Maybe if you weren't wearing that jersey.
I know. I'm just saying.
a lot of fans online telling us that the typical kind of Raider fan mentality in the last 15 years, which is Kirk Cousins will have a big game because it's us.
Yeah.
We are very familiar with that line of thinking.
Yes, so it's interesting. Now,
I'm thinking any quarterback could have a big game the way the secondary looked. It's got nothing to do with the Raider mentality. It's like they looked very bad and they're beat up. It's just the way
beat
it
up.
is.
Yes, I think that's the thing. And Lamarcus Joyner, of course, with the hamstring injury. All right, guys, now we're going to turn to NFL picks so that we can make you some money. We were all 1-1 last week, correct? You went 2-0.
Somebody
was 2-0.
2-0 2 weeks in a row, but somebody forgot to put his picks on the site for the
That's
first
right.
week.
So, but we're going with what we did, and that was 2-0. We were
Keeping the man down.
Kelly was 2-0. Chaz, you were 1-1 last week.
Yep.
Because you had the over/under with me on the Raider game, right? The over?
Oh, no, I had. I was down with Gardner Minshew's outfit.
Oh, that's right. That's
Hell
what it was.
yeah.
And they should have won that game outright. I love going for 2, though. Why not win it?
That's
Win
right.
on the road.
I think so. I think it.
And then I think Washington, I had Dallas.
That's
just squeaked them out
You had
there.
Washington, yeah. And I was 1-1. I won with the Lions game and lost with the Raiders over.
You picked the Lions?
I did.
How did the Lions win that
goodness. Oh my
Chargers
goodness.
fumbling.
Lions are
drunk?
a lot better team than people think, and you're
I
going to
know.
see it again today.
Yes. So that leads us into
professional segue right there, boys.
That leads us into our picks for today, and I'm going with Arizona as dogs. No Cam Newton against Carolina +3. I would take Arizona, and then going Denver Green Bay under 42.5. Kelly.
You like those under again, do you?
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, should have had it last week. I've got the...
You're right, I should have.
Yeah. I've got the Texans +3, and I fully admit that right after I made that pick, I could totally see anything happening in that game. I just think the Texans are a little better than San Diego. And I have the Eagles game under because I can't name some of their players that are playing today.
You talk about banged up.
Yeah,
More
I
than
mean...
that. All right, Chaz.
That's another one, yep.
We got about a minute left, guys.
Okay, I got Cincinnati +6.
Cincy.
Terrible.
Going into Buffalo. Buffalo's been all overrated. Everybody's
like
all over
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Home opener.
So I'm going opposite there as usual. And then Denver +7.5. You know, everybody's all over Green Bay and who knows why. So I'm going opposite there. I'm taking the road team.
Nice. I like the under in that game for sure. I learned my lesson last week. Now it'll go over, of course, because That's how it goes. Guys, Lindsey, first of all, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me in.
Raider fans, apparently, what does it say here? We're vomiting at the sight of the
It's okay. We can fight later, guys. Thanks for being so welcoming.
But we like Lindsey. So
Thank you.
you're good. They hate your jersey, but they like you.
Once every 4 years. That's all I ask.
Once every 4 years, like the military.
Yeah.
Rejoining. And Chaz, thanks, man, for being here as always. Yeah. Okay, nothing to say?
Yeah. Go Raiders. Raider Nation. My pleasure.
Oh, yeah, I'm on the radio. And Kelly, as always.
Yeah. See the clock up there, Chaz? That means we have some more time left to fill.
You didn't give me the signal.
All right.
Go Raiders.
That has been Silver and Black today. We're going up now to kickoff. Raiders and the Vikings are coming up here in about 2.5 minutes. Enjoy the game. We'll talk about it next week. Make sure you visit silverandblacktoday.com. Download the episode here on any of your platforms that you get your podcast. We appreciate you being here, and we will talk to you next time here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Thanks for joining us. Take care.